Hey kids. So I do have a better camera somewhere, but I just turned the house upside down looking for it, and no luck. So we're stuck filming with this silly webcam here. So basically, I decided that I was going to upload a video. I just made an appointment with to go into one of the sensory deprivation chambers, a float tank, in a couple of days here. So I wanted to kind of do a prologue and basically to kind of go over my expectations and my goals through this practice. It's kind of like a tool that's used by um, some people who meditate, and some of the lucid dreamers, they write down what they hope to accomplish, or things that they would like to experience, or topics that they would like to touch on in their practices, and like a goal to make that happen. So I thought I would kind of do that here. This was something that never really even crossed my mind, but there was an article that was running in one of our weekly papers here in Portland that there was a local facility that does the flow tags. The facility here is a place called Float On. They're in Portland, and their sensory deprivation tanks are um, water chambers that, as the name implies, you float in. With these tanks, the water is 12 inches deep, and it's with a high concentration of salt. So, like, you may or may not know, like in the Dead Sea, you float in the water because the water is so it's just so concentrated with the salt water that it has like a high density in the fats in our body, and the water content of our body makes us less dense than the salt water, so we float on top of it. With the Dead Sea, I'd see pictures of people floating in it, but they kind of sink in it. They don't float like a board, like stick straight. In these chambers, the water is significantly more dense than the Dead Sea, so you do float straight on top of it, and you're at 12 inches of water, and you're not touching the bottom. You're floating on top of the water. Um, some of the things that I've read about it, some people were saying that they had difficulties like fully surrendering to the medium, where they were afraid to like just lay their head back and just be, because they're afraid that their the water would submerge and the salt would get into their eyes. So knowing that going into it will be kind of a nice advantage for myself, I believe. Knowing that some people had that as a concern and an issue, and knowing that I need to just let go and just relax. I, th- I think, in terms of chronologically speaking, you're in the tank for 90 minutes, and part of this is that it's enough time for you to lose perception of time. So after a while, you stop worrying about time, and it becomes not a focus of concern. You stop worrying about where you have to be in an hour, or appointments that you've made that day, and you wonder to yourself frequently, have I been here for 15 minutes? Have I been here for an hour? Are we almost done here, or do we keep going? And I think having the lack of these earthly perceptions, these things that keep us grounded here, these things that keep us distracted from the realities of our mind, are not present in the sensory deprivation chambers. The water is heated to something like 91, 92 degrees. You can't feel the water. You're not supposed to experience hot. You're not supposed to experience cold. Um, so you can't feel your skin. Your sense of touch has been greatly diminished. It's dark, so you have no vision. The chambers are soundproof, so you have no perception of sound. Having the lack of these stimulus, these things that distract you from sinking into a deeper state of thought, really allows you to I think flow through and travel through your own mind unencumbered. I think it's in my experience with meditating, I basically have to go through a checklist when I want to accomplish higher states. I have to basically go over all of the things, like stop hearing sound, the sounds that you're hearing. Just don't focus on them. I have to focus on the vibrations of my own body, to tune in on a buzzing sound, or just to free myself of these things. And this in meditation, it takes some time. It's not something that you can just escape to. And I'm hoping that in the sensory deprivation chamber that it will be much easier to do that. um, I'm kind of expecting to almost be bored for the first 15 minutes, and I think it will be quite like puzzling and almost awkward to like float. Just the sensation of floating. That's not something we experience very often. Um, and the aroma of the salt, I guess, is supposed to be very pungent as well. So it'll be kind of odd to have that strong sense of smell. Um, so I think that the scent in itself will take some getting used to. Um, but one of the things that initially turned me onto this as well in that article that I read, it went on to like layers of concepts and the beneficial things that are that occur from this. They started like citing some studies suggesting that uh, just being in the float in the sensory deprivation chamber, it creates a like heightened state of self worth, that people just discovered things about themselves that in a way that it was used as a tool for like smoking cessation, like to quit smoking, that people were doing floats and just like thinking about just their body and the like how to take care of it, that it had something like 50% of people who floated and actually like thought about the idea of smoking and just like taking care of your body, that they just like left with this heightened state of like self-worth and like this is my body, this is something I need to take care of. And 50% of the people who went in stopped smoking. And the article is just saying it's really good for things like depression and all sorts of concepts. And you're floating, so you have this sense of this lack of gravity, which is also anatomically speaking, it's great for your back, for decompression of the spinal column, to relax the muscles. So it's like even on a physiological level, it's very therapeutic for the body. I was just watching one of these Joe Rogan Experience podcasts, and he goes on to it. It's something that Joe Rogan does quite frequently, that he talks about quite frequently. He's saying that our body actually has the ability to absorb magnesium out of the water from the Epsom salts. So we actually like obtain some level of nutrition from the water itself, just in being in the water. I think one of the finishing comments from the author of this article in the Willamette Weekly, he's saying, at the very least, it's a blowjob for your body. Was one of the quotes I remember from the article, and basically saying, even if you're bored the whole time, even if you get nothing out of it mentally, that it's just like very relaxing for the body itself, even if from a mental state that you accomplish nothing. In terms of some of the mental things that I've heard and I've read from other people's reviews from their experiences with this particular facility, one thing that I recall is one of the reviewers was saying that he felt more like he was accomplishing a state of insomnia, And I think he was trying to say that he was just getting to that place when you're sleeping, when you're trying to do something, but you kind of feel like you're failing at it, and you kind of feel like you're just sitting there, almost like you're wasting your time. I think there's like an issue with the stasis of thought, which I'm not personally worried about, having, you know, gone through times where sitting hours on end on road trips and whatnot, and it's just boredom was never really an issue for me. I feel like I'm comfortable enough in my own skin to enjoy actually probing the corners of my own mind and just exploring myself in these avenues of thought. In terms of the things that you experience while in there, the author of this article in Willamette Weekly that I keep referencing, he was citing this memory that he experienced. Sorry, that's my cell phone. I won't get that right now. He was recalling this memory, and the way that he described the memory is that he was able to recall specific textures in the environment, and he was saying that he recalled it with such vivid imagination that he felt like he was experiencing it as if he were there currently. The idea with this is that our eyes, they see things, and they they distract us from the thoughts that we are currently experiencing at a time. In daily life, we tend to think in words when we think to ourselves, but in order to get to a higher state of consciousness, you have to stop thinking in a verbal format, and eventually we start thinking in a visual format. In these states where there is no light, your eyes stop perceiving light. When you turn off the lights and you just look into the distance, you notice that you see some type of visual static, and your eyes tend to make stuff up. They tend to insert colors in places where there is no color, and you almost start to accomplish. I've accomplished focusing on this static. I've accomplished psychedelic states in my meditations, and I've seen types of religious iconography that the the colors and the imagery, it just contests the complexity of human language to be able to describe. But he the the heightened, without using your physical eyes, it allows you to greatly focus on the mind's eye, and what you think becomes what you see, and what you are seeing in that state becomes vivid in a state that's you can't explain. It becomes what you know versus what you think. And it sounds like uh, some people are having issues getting to that state and allowing themselves to travel down that wormhole to where that thought becomes your physical reality. And I feel like in my practices and meditation that won't necessarily be an image, that it won't be an issue for me. And I really hope that I can make some progress on that issue, that I'm not stuck in stasis. In terms of just the physical health of the body and floating, I'm perfectly satisfied with accomplishing that stasis and sitting in their board for 90 minutes. Um, I'm looking forward to just the therapeutic qualities of just floating in the water, and it sounds greatly relaxing to me. Um, yeah, so I'll shoot another one of these videos afterwards, and we'll see how well my thesis on the experience holds up to the reality. and I'll post a video afterwards on my experience and go into some detail um, of what I think, the thoughts that I had experienced while in the chamber, as well as some of my follow-up thoughts that happened afterwards and beforehand. So I'll see you in the next video.